Hi, and welcome to the EDC Squirrel, and welcome to my very first video. If you're coming from my video game channel, Dorano's Game Cave, thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for your support. If you're new to the channel completely, thanks again for checking me out. I hope you find it entertaining enough to stay. Like I said, this is going to be my very first video for the channel. So you'll excuse me if things seem a little off. I'm not used to recording uh, or making recordings. Normally, when I do stuff for my video game channel, I'm doing everything live. I'm streaming live. And while I go off the cuff, this is, I don't know, I guess a different format than I usually do, a different form of recording than I usually do. So if you'll forgive me, I might be a little kind of rough. Anyway, I've been agonizing on what I was going to do for a very first video. And I think the best way to do that would be to share some of my favorite knives in my collection. And I thought this would make a great first video because in that way, I can also see how my tastes evolve as time goes on. And to start things off, well, first of all, I need to explain that I do live in a state where the blade length of pocket carry knives, if you're taking them with you on a day-to-day basis, is restricted. And in my particular state, that restriction, the blade restriction, is 3 inches or less. Most of the knives in my collection are going to be towards the budget end of things. And when I say budget end of things, it's going to be roughly around $100 or less. Once I start getting over $100, actually, I do have a few knives that are over 100. But once I start getting over 200, 250, I start getting a little anxious about carrying something like that outside, much less using it for day-to-day tasks. Like what I would do would be cutting cardboard, opening containers, zip ties, wires, nylon straps, ropes, things like that. When you start venturing into something really expensive like 250 on, I'm not saying that those aren't capable, but with the type of use that I do for them, I don't think they're really necessary. Also, if I were to somehow break or lose my knife, it doesn't hurt so much to lose, say, a $50 knife over like a $250 to $500 knife. So most of my collection tends to gravitate towards the budget end of things. Okay, that being said, let's start with some of my favorite knives in my collection. And we are going to go with one from Cevivi. This is called the Elementum 2 with a button lock. Beautiful knife. This particular model comes in I think it was a carbon fiber and gold flake scaled handle with a Damascus blade. Cevivi makes some great Damascus knives, true Damascus, not just acid etching or anything like that. This is a 3-inch. It's less than a 3-inch blade. I know that. Button lock. I also tend to gravitate towards things like button locks, crossbars, and such. I'm starting to lean away from liner locks and frame locks, and a lot of this stuff will be explained later on. And a lot of that has to do with safety. But a very beautiful knife. One of the first knives that I've gotten from Cevivi. And I do have a regular, I don't know if you can call it regular, I do have a non-Damascus version that I do carry with me more often. Usually when I get a knife and I find that I really, really like it a lot, then I might get a second prettier version like this. Just as a keepsake. I mean, it's still very usable. Their Damascus steel is very, very good. But yeah, when I get smitten with a knife, a lot of times I'll get a second one. I guess you'd say just to be on the safe side. I don't know why, other than I like a knife so much, I like to have a double. But yeah, one of my favorite knives in my collection, the Cevivi Elementum 2. I do collect a lot of Cevivis. They've really impressed me as a knife manufacturer in the last few years. And so a good majority of my collection tends to be from Cevivi. All right, so that's one of my favorite knives. Now, continuing on with Cevivi, another one is the Cevivi Yonder. Again, this one is a wood scaled 14. Oh no, this one's a Damascus steel blade as well. Very beautiful knife, except this one's darkened. This one is a crossbar lock. Again, like I said, I tend to gravitate towards locks like this because I like their inherent safety and use. Beautiful knife. I think this one was designed by Zach in the Wild. If I understand correctly, that's his little logo. Love the blade on this one. Again, this one is, well, it's under 3 inches. Again, Damascus steel. This one in particular, I think was closer to $70 to $90. I can't remember the cost on these offhand. But what I will do is I will put links down in the description below. So if you're interested in getting any of the knives that you see here or similar models, you'll be able to check them out and also help me out in the process and the future of this channel. But back to the Yonder. Again, one of my favorite knives. I love the feel of this handle. Again, this is another one where I started off with, this one's a G10 scaled version with 1428 or 14C28N steel blade. And I think, I don't know what they call this. I think this is a modified, no, I think they call this a sheep's foot blade. I have a little diagram here. I'll put the NAFs. This is a mouse pad, really cool. I'll put this in this, I'll link to this one in the description as well. But this is another one of those knives where I fell in love and had to get a prettier version of this. So this, again, is one of my favorite knives in my collection, the Cevivi Yonder. Beautiful knife. Love the crossbar lock. Super solid. And it just looks absolutely beautiful. Very sharp. All these knives are super sharp. Proof and point. All these knives are super sharp. And I would have no problems using any of these on a day-to-day basis. Although, admittedly, I would probably take this one out more often than I would take this one out. But that's another one of my favorites. I've got quite a few Cevivi favorites. Another one, and this one probably has seen the most time in my pocket. This is the Cevivi Cubit. Aluminum scaled handle. Beautiful, beautiful blade. This one is I like to say this is a 14C28. Yep, 14C28N steel blade, which is probably my favorite steel for knives of this budget spectrum, I guess you could say. I don't know. I love the shape of this blade. Very utilitarian. Nice full grip. Feels great. Again, this is a button lock for safety. Flicks out really easy with a thumb stud. Really fast. And this has probably seen the most pocket time out of any knife that I've currently carried, with exception to maybe 1 or 2 others. Simply because it's just an all-around great knife. It's light and it's a very, very sharp, very I don't know how to say this, but the knife shape lends itself to a whole lot of uses when it comes to cutting boxes, tape, cords, things like that. Nice point on its drop. They call it a drop point blade. I think this is also a flat ground blade as well. But I love the size of the belly on this thing. You can choke up on it. You get a nice sized finger choil on the blade for detail cuts. Another one of my favorite blades. And the funny thing is, probably the most, I guess, for lack of a better term, inert looking knives in my collection. But I love it that much. This one, again, about 3-inch blade, I think, and super smooth, ambidextrous clip. I know I'm going everywhere when it comes to the details of these knives, but I'll nail things down eventually. Again, this is my first video. Sooner or later, I'll start writing things down, and hopefully things will become more structured as time goes on. But that's the Cevivi Cubit. Now, one of the, let's see here, one of my utmost favorite knives. Again, we'll make this one the last one from the Cevivi line. This is the Vision FG. Probably the favorite of quite a few people on YouTube. And it's probably been mentioned quite a bit. Reverse Tanto blade. I love this. Now, this is not something I can carry on a normal basis because this is a much longer blade than the 3-inch. I'd like to say it's a 3¼ inch blade, maybe 3.5. So I don't carry this on a daily basis with me when I go out. This one generally stays in my apartment. But I love the blade, this reverse Tanto, and especially the locking system. This is Cevivi Super Lock. Again, it's inherently safe because all your fingers stay away from where the blade closes back down on in the handle, and you've got thumb studs to open, or you can use the Super Lock and just release the blade in that fashion. Love this blade. A little heavier, ambidextrous pocket clip. I haven't yet, but this is one of those knives that I probably will get a pretty second one. I know they have a Damascus steel version of this one. This is a Nitro V steel blade designed by Snex. Great steel. Love this to death. Super sharp, and just a very fun fidget knife. I mean, I can play with this thing all day. I will also probably cut myself again. But anyway, probably my single favorite Cevivi knife out of the whole bunch. Love this one. We'll probably get a Damascus steel blade eventually. I think these run about $80 roughly. The Damascus steel version gets closer to 100, but I don't think it goes over 100. Links again for these knives in the description below. But probably my favorite Cevivi blade out of the bunch. Okay, so other favorites. This one is from Kaiser, another manufacturer that I've been starting to really, really love. And this is called the Dropbear. This is a crossbar lock knife. Again, about it's under a 3-inch handle, or 3-inch blade. Crossbar style, drop leaf blade, or drop point. Now I'm getting my words mixed up. Drop point blade. This one's really cool because you can see the internal workings of the crossbar. You can see your Omega springs inside there. Very, very snappy blade. You got your thumb studs, or you can use the crossbar lock to flick that open and closed. I don't use it that often, as you can probably tell. But I love the feel of this blade. I love the feel of the handle. The handle's a little slicker than some of the others I have, but it's not, in my opinion, problematic. You can change position of the pocket clip. So you got ambidextrous pocket clip. The crossbar locking mechanism is inherently ambidextrous. And you got your thumb studs. Very sharp blade. Love this knife. Mainly because it's so smooth in its operation. It comes out super fast, almost like an automatic. I mean, it's the point where it's like, who needs an automatic when you've got action like that? But I really love this knife. I love the fact that you can see the internals. Oh, and also a neat thing about the Dropbear with their crossbar locks is you can see there is a number of little holes inside on the liner, the inner liner. And what that allows you to do is you can adjust the spring tension, and that's the spring here, this little wire. You can adjust the spring tension by moving that to different holes. So if you want a tighter, stiffer feeling lock, you can do that. I think this is how I got it from the factory, and I haven't adjusted it because it just feels great to me. Or I think if you bring it down, you can lighten it the further down you go, if I understand correctly. And also another cool thing about Kaiser, at least with their crossbar locks, is they included an extra set of springs and some other stuff, which I thought is really neat. Unlike some of the others where some of the crossbar locks might be a little harder to access if you're doing maintenance on a knife, they've made it really, really easy. And like I said, with the fact that I can see through the scales, you can tell if there's any problems going on. Not that I expect really anything to happen to this one. Beautiful, beautiful knife. One of my top favorites. Another one of those where once I have a favorite, I can't help it. I have to grab two. This one also in... Oh, okay. I think they're both in Nitro V. Yeah, Nitro V steel. This one's just a blackened one with PEI handle. Is it Ultim or PEI? I can't remember. But also still see-through, crossbar lock. Beautiful knives. Smooth action. Just really snappy. Love these Kaiser knives. And I'll probably be getting a lot more Kaiser knives as time goes on. They've just been really impressive. Another one of my favorite knives. This is the only one I have from this manufacturer. This one is not one that I can carry with me on a regular basis because the blade is too big. And I hope I'm saying the name of this one right. So this is the only one I have from this manufacturer. This is called a Migoron Moyar. And now the Moyar, I understood, has been out for a little bit. However, just recently, they came out with a titanium scaled handle. And normally on a titanium scaled or titanium is going to run the cost of a knife. Generally, I've seen above the $100 mark, and this one was just what, $76, just under $76. And this got a crossbar lock with a thumb hole for deployment. It's got a 14C28N steel blade. Again, my favorite steel for knives of this price range. Titanium scales. And this one is black, called it PVD. Yeah, black PVD titanium scales. And again, not something you'd normally see on a knife, or at least that I've seen on a knife sub 100. Now again, I don't carry this with me on a regular basis because in this case it's a 3 1/4 inch steel blade. So this one tends to be relegated to home. It's got an interesting thunk when you close it up. I think that's due to the titanium. You've got reversible, or not reversible, I guess, changeable pocket clips for ambidextrous pocket clip. That's the word. And really, really solid crossbar lock. No play. None of these knives have had any play on the blades once they've been locked. Beautiful, beautiful knife. I just love the fact that I was able to get my hands on something with titanium scales for such a good price. Another one of my favorites. Unfortunately, like I said, I can't carry it around with me because of the blade size, but still really nice to have in the collection. And this is the only Migoron. I'm not going to have too many of these because one thing I noticed about Migoron knives is they don't have many, if any, that I've seen 3 inches or below. So this is my only current Migoron knife. Hopefully they'll get some with blades 3 inches or less that I can carry on a regular basis. But the meantime, if I do pick up any, it's just merely going to be for use at home and pretty much to stare at. But that's Migoron the Moyar. I hope I'm saying that right. Okay, and let's see. Another manufacturer, one that I've been getting blades from for quite some time. Although, admittedly, I tended to get, like, they're really inexpensive, on the verge of being considered gas station models. But Kershaw has recently come back in the last year or so and made some really awesome stuff, really beautiful stuff. Usually they're known for their assisted knives. And although I do have a couple of their assisted stuff, I'm straying away from those as well. I'm kind of finding those to be somewhat unnecessary, because when you've got knives, like for example the Dropbear, those other ones, their deployment is so quick, I almost don't see a point. And to me, it's just another thing that can go wrong. However, they did make some that are completely manual, like this one. This is one of my few American-made knives, the Kershaw Bell Air. Again, here's the crossbar lock, thumb studs for deployment, or you can use the crossbar. This has probably my favorite steel you can get on any knife, and that is a Magna Cut steel blade. And really, really sharp, great shape. I love these are aluminum handles. I can't remember what they call the color, but they're aluminum handles with also ambidextrous pocket clip. So if you're a lefty, you can switch that over. They called their crossblade lock a Duralock. Very snappy. Love this knife. I don't have many American-made knives because they tend to be rather expensive, and this is probably one of my more expensive knives. But to get something like an American-made with aluminum handles, a Magna Cut steel blade, and this was just over $140, below 150, which to me is utterly fantastic, especially for a USA made. Love this knife. They do have, now if you like this styling, another one of my favorites, and because it's a favorite because I can actually carry it around. Now this is not American made, but this is another Kershaw. This is their mini Iridium. Similar styling. They have a regular Iridium, which has an over 3-inch blade, and then you have this model, which is a mini Iridium, which is I think a 3-inch blade, and aluminum scales with a D2 steel blade. But because of the fact that it is a 3-inch blade, this I can carry with me on a daily basis. And this is another one of those knives that I just really love to carry around with me. I love the look. I love the feel. Aluminum scales, pretty similar in design to the Bel Air, with a few differences, but much, much more affordable. I think if I recall, the mini Iridiums were roughly around less than $70. But and I think this color might have been a Knife Center exclusive. I can't recall. But if you're leery about taking an expensive knife out, but you love this style, or you're restricted, in which case you can get the mini version. Really, really love these new Kershaws that they've been coming out. This one I think was a Knife Center exclusive. I can't recall. I think it might have been. I know on Amazon you can get, there's an ice blue version. Yes, I know, I have a few. That's how much I love these knives. That's an ice blue version. Same thing, aluminum scales, D2 steel blade, ambidextrous pocket clip. Love these knives. Kershaw really hit it out of the park with the Bel Air, these Iridium knives. and a few others that are admittedly, one of these you can still get. No, two of these you can still get. One of them you probably can't. But the last three knives that I'm going to show you, this one's an interesting one. This is a gin. I'm going to have a separate video for this one because this was a kit knife. This was under $40, right? Under $35 actually. And this comes as a kit where they provide you with all the parts. In this case, this is a button lock blade. They provide you with all the parts, the scales, the liners, the blade, everything. And you put it together yourself. I thought that was the neatest thing in the world. It's a 2-inch blade, so I can carry this pretty much anywhere without a problem. Thumb studs, or you can take those out and you got a small thumb hole. Again, it's a button lock, so you can use that to deploy or retract your blade. And then you also have a front flipper, which I'm not the greatest at using, but I'm getting used to it. I don't have too many front flipper blades. I have this one other one, but really, really cool, simply because you put this thing together yourself. You have a ambidextrous pocket clip, and I think that's pretty much it. G10 scales, really grippy. And it's what kind of steel is this? This is a 9 CR 18 MOV steel blade, which is, for the cost of this knife, is perfectly fine. Will do what it needs to do. Stainless steel, sharp as all get out. This isn't the one that bit me, by the way. But I just love the fact that it's a really nice knife that you get to put together on your own, and it works perfectly fine. I think they have like 2 other versions with different blade lengths or styles, and I think like one of them's a frame lock with a little longer than 3-inch blade, if I recall. I can't remember what the other one is, but still interested in possibly getting those because they are very inexpensive. And I just like the fact that I can put together my own knife, and it's not only just something I put together myself, but something that you can still use and use pretty confidently. And they give you everything, including even the tools to put the knife together, and also a generous amount of knife oil for the pivot, which makes this surprisingly smooth, especially for something so inexpensive and something that I had to put together myself. And because of that, this has gotten a special place in my heart. It's one of my favorite knives. The other one that I'm going to show you is kind of a love-hate thing, and I have 2 of them. I'm going to show you the first one. This one I don't carry with me because the knife blade is too long, but this one stirred memories in me as a young child because my father had one in his tackle box, and then it's been so long since I've seen one, and then I came across one, and it just flooded me with memories of going fishing, using it to cut line, prepare fish, things like that. And I just had to get my hands on one. And thankfully, they are super cheap. Probably the cheapest knife in my collection. And still, yet one of my favorite knives. Now, there are people that hate this knife. And there are people that are part of I guess you could say, there's a small cult following regarding these knives. People seem to be very opinionated about these. I love them. I think they're great. Super cheap. 15, 16 bucks roughly for this one is the Opinel, made in France, virtually unchanged since 1890 when they started making these. This is a number 8. They have knives with the names of number 1 through I think 13, which is ridiculously huge, and the numbers denote how big the blade is. This is the number 8. This is, I think, their first knife they started making in 1890, and it's been virtually unchanged since then, aside from this little locking mechanism to keep the blade closed. That was like, as far as I know, the only addition. They called this a viral block, or viral lock, or is it viral block? Viral lock. I think it was viral block. And what you need to do is you turn this to open up the blade, and then turn it again to lock the blade in place. So the blade is very solid in there. No play. This is a beechwood handle, making this very, very light. Very, very sharp. Not something I'd probably use for anything remotely heavy duty. But things like cutting up fruit, preparing food out in the wild, light duty stuff, cutting fishing line, perfectly fine. Now this one, like I said, I don't carry because the knife blade is too long. And again, I want to stay within state laws. So I did get another one called a number 6. The number 6 giving me a blade of less than 3 inches, but also part of their premium wood line. This one is, I think it's pronounced puttock wood. Nice redwood. Now, this is more expensive because it is one of their premium woods, but when I say more expensive, this thing was about $30. So yes, it was twice the cost of the other one. But still, roughly around $30 for this. And with a premium wood, they really, oops, might want to unlock that, works the same way. They really put a shine on that blade. Really beautiful. Made in France. Opinel knives. They have a whole slew of different models. They make kitchen knives, specialty knives. I think the one my father had when I was a kid was I think it was called a garlic chestnut knife, which was more of a very short hawk build type blade. But I still need to get my hands on one of those. But I had to get their standard numbers because I thought they were absolutely beautiful. No logo on the premium wood handle, which keeps it nice and clean. Still very light. Like I said, a beautiful polish on the premium ones, and still only $30. And they'll vary. They have, I think, 4 different types of wood, like oak and a few others. I went for the puttock. Again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but the puttock, because of the color, the look, beautiful, beautiful knife. Regardless of what others might say, I love it. I love it for its simplicity. And there you go. And it even comes with a little tiny sleeve to put it in, which I thought was also pretty cool. But hey, that's premium for you. $30 premium knife. Okay, the last one I'm going to show you, the last favorite knife in my collection. This one you won't be able to get because unfortunately I don't think they make these anymore. Well, you might be able to find them on eBay. This, first of all, is probably one of the first knives I've ever gotten in my life on my own. And somehow it's one of the few knives that I've managed to stick with me and not get destroyed, lost, or whatever. So it's also the oldest knife that I own, and that is the Sharp TM. That's the trademark. It's a Sharp hunting knife. It's one of the few fixed blade knives I have in my collection. This thing, made in Taiwan, stainless. I'd like to say 420 or 440 stainless steel. I don't know. It's hard to find information on this one. If you know anything about this knife, comment below. Let me know, because I'd love to get more information on this. Old knife. I have seen them on eBay. Now, originally, these were available from Kmart, if you remember that store, for roughly about $10. I have seen them on eBay for about $20 to $25 in varying conditions. How this has managed to survive so long in my possession, I have no idea, because I have put this knife through frickin' hell. I mean, cutting wood, going fishing, chopping, hammering with the butt end of this thing. How is this not more marked up? Whoop, here's the camera. I don't understand how this isn't more marked up. But this has been through hell. It's been through numerous sharpenings. I don't understand it, other than it's become mystical in nature in my mind, with how well this has held up over the years, and the fact that it's still around with me and it's not even gotten lost. Like, there's been times where I know I hadn't seen this knife for maybe a couple of years, and then I will happen upon it again, tucked away in some box, in some drawer, or whatever. And it came with a leather sheath, which I still have in pretty okay condition. Not the greatest leather sheath. I mean, these were not expensive knives, but it was one of the first knives I've ever gotten. And I'd like to say it's almost magical in nature with how long this has been around with me, and just simply hasn't gotten lost. But probably my favorite knife in the collection, right here, Sharp TM, some random purchase from Kmart. Razor sharp, just sharpened it recently, and ready for more adventures. Love this knife. I still don't understand how this thing has lasted. But anyway, that will end it. I think this video has run long enough. This should give you an idea of the type of stuff that I like to collect. And like I said before, this is my very first video. And I thought this would be a good one to start off with, because this way I can see how my tastes change over time as this channel continues to grow. And maybe we'll revisit this again later. Maybe I'll do another top favorites a year from now and see what might have changed, what might have gotten replaced. If you have any of these knives, or there's another knife you think I should check out, do comment below. Let me know. This is how I learned. This is how I discover new things. Comment below and share your thoughts on any of the knives that you've seen here, or if there's something that you think I'd like to check out, either for daily use or even just collecting. And maybe we'll both find something new. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Hope you guys had fun. If you liked what you saw, please drop a like down below. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe and hit the notification bell, so that way you get notifications for when I start dropping the next videos. Like I said, I do have a video of me putting the gin kit knife together. I'll be putting together, I got 3 new knives from Cevivi that I want to share with you guys, and also an interesting story with one of those knives that I got from Cevivi. No, it's not something that I blame Cevivi for, but it was just really odd. And I'm kind of curious if you guys have run into anything similar. But that's for another video. But I've got plenty of videos I hope to be coming out with soon, and I hope you guys will be there for them. So thanks again. You guys are awesome. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye-bye.